Suzanne Koget, president of the Petco Foundation, here along with the one and only, the cat daddy, Jackson Galaxy. And we want to welcome everyone to the 4th Innovation Showdown.
Now, this is definitely an interesting year for the Showdown. As like everyone else around the country, we've needed to get innovative ourselves and bring the Showdown to everyone virtually, because innovation has to continue if we want to continue to save pet lives. With that said, let's take a look back at all of the innovation that we've seen over the years.
The Innovation Showdown is something that the Petco Foundation and the Jackson Galaxy project came together and said, listen, we want to build a Shark Tank for animal welfare. We want to encourage animal welfare to come up with innovative ideas, because it's all to save more lives.
Let the Innovation Showdown begin!
200 life-saving ideas were submitted from leaders in animal welfare across the nation. And from those 200 submissions, the Petco Foundation selected the 2 most innovative organizations to present their ideas.
And now we're going to hear 2 pitches.
Mom in a Box is an integrated solution that provides both a temperature-controlled environment, including a heating pad for the kittens to regulate their body temperature, as well as temperature-controlled milk for them to dispense.
After the initial investment to create and test this program, the magnet, text messaging, and other resources could be turned into a copy and paste template that could easily be replicated by shelters across the country.
This idea is organized, efficient crowdfunding that harnesses the power of crowdfunding to help rescue, save more lives in the shelter. That's what it's all about, life-saving.
ACC could put 125 digital shelters throughout the 5 boroughs of New York City.
So brass tacks, we're looking for help to stop missed opportunities. We're looking for help to stop euthanasia for space and really invest in this innovative project that we think is going to change Dallas and shelters across the country.
We got $350,000 to allocate here. Not a whole lot of time to do it. This is just the hard part.
Do this.
I would say 50 to get them going.
Thank you, guys.
You agree 100 would be a good start?
The group has decided to invest $250,000.
Yeah!
We can build an amazing world around these animals. We just got to keep innovating, okay?
Let's begin our unique and exciting Innovation Showdown!
Well, I just love seeing that. I mean, it is absolutely amazing when you think about all the innovation that's happened over the years. And in terms of the quality of the ideas and what we can accomplish, what has been submitted this year just continues to amaze me. What about you, Suzanne?
Yeah, absolutely, Jackson. And the other thing that continues to amaze me is the commitment of the nation's top animal welfare organizations to the Showdown. This year, we are joined by 8 other investors who all believe that innovation is how we will save more lives. And it's really because of that today's potential investment is the most it's ever been. $500,000. Woo!
That's amazing. And $500,000 can fund a lot of innovation, Suzanne. But I want to remind our contestants and our investors and everyone watching at home that this investment is earned and not given. So it's over the next hour, it's up to our 3 pitching organizations to prove to the investors that their ideas deserve these funds. They will have to show that their plans are well thought out and that these are feasible ideas that can truly earn the support of these amazing investing organizations. So let's meet all the investors who have made today's Showdown possible, starting with Mary Smith of Maddie's Fund.
Hi, everyone. Mary Smith from Maddie's Fund. Glad to be here.
Hi, everyone. I'm JJ Rollinson from the Annenberg Foundation and Wallace Annenberg Pet Space.
Hi, everyone. I'm Geraldine Bryant from the Dave and Cheryl Duffield Foundation.
Hey, everybody. I'm Krista Chadwick with the ASPCA.
Hi, folks. Lindsay Del Chiaro with PetSmart Charities.
Hi, I'm Matt Sarkovsky with the Mary Jo and Hank Greenberg Animal Welfare Foundation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angie Embry with Best Friends Animal Society.
Hello, I'm Amy Gilbreth with the Michelson Found Animals Foundation.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. It's great to have all of you this year. Now, some of you may remember Brandywine Valley SPCA from our 2017 Innovation Showdown and their amazing Mama in a Box idea. Now, this short video shows the Mama in a Box in action. Oh, my. It's hard to focus on that because the kittens are really, really cute.
You know, kitten season is here, and I know organizations around the country are going to want to put Mama in a Box to good use, right? So we're so excited to share that we're actually going to give away a Mama in the Box prototype to 2 lucky organizations today. So everyone's thinking, well, how can we be that lucky organization? Well, if you're watching us live, just tell us in the Facebook comments how many neonatal kittens you could save with this Mama, and we'll pick 2 lucky winners to become the next Mama in a Box testers.
It's amazing to see the progress from Innovation Showdown contestants from prior years. I mean, I don't know about you, I'm getting pretty excited to see this year's contestants pitch their ideas pretty shortly. Now, the investors have selected Kitizen Science and All Four Paws as 2 finalists this year. And we asked you to vote for the 3rd finalist on the stage, or should I say in the Zoom window. And this year's wild card winner is Greenville Animal Care Services in South Carolina. Now, we also want to give a shout out to all the People's Choice finalists who made it through a very, very tough competition by submitting truly fantastic life-saving innovations. So how about a little online applause for all of these fantastic organizations, please? Thank you, guys, and thank you for continuing to innovate.
Well, it's that time now, and I'm so excited to hear from our 3 finalists vying for that up to $500,000 investment today. And I think they're probably pretty excited to pitch too. So should we get started? Okay, let's hear it. Let the Innovation Showdown begin. Woo!
Okay. The artwork. All right, that's innovative artwork. Now, our first pitch is coming to us from South Carolina. All Four Paws has an innovative idea that they think can earn a big investment today. So let's see what they're pitching.
Hi, I'm Allison Gillespie, the Operations Director at All Four Paws Animal Rescue in Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Our idea for the Innovation Grant is in this can, and we can get it done. Since our beginning 8 years ago, we have rescued over 14,000 animals through adoption and transfer programs. We understand that adoptions is not the solution to the problem alone. So we have also included spay-neuter surgeries for lots of our local animals and low-income residents in the area. So this is where the can comes in. Every week, we load our animals up into our trusty van and we travel over 80 miles to get to a spay-neuter clinic. We have 1 other local clinic, and our time there is so limited that we just really need a permanent option.
The solution was simple. We would simply have to raise money to build a spay-neuter clinic. There was just one problem. With the permits and the building and all of the extra manual labor to go into it, we were looking at over $500,000 to put in a clinic.
Our solution is in this can. That's right, in the can. Clinic in a Can. Clinic in a Can is a US-based business that recycles shipping containers into medical units that they ship overseas for low costs. We would be their partner in becoming the first ever veterinary clinic. They have never built a vet clinic or a spay-neuter clinic, but they could. And we would like to be their original partner so that other animal shelters and rescues could duplicate this on a replicable scale. What we'd like to prove is you don't need a big fancy building to reduce overpopulation. We have the property, we have the potential partner in Clinic in a Can, and we have the preliminary approval to get started. We really just need you and your can-do attitude.
Okay, here to tell us about Clinic in a Can, please welcome All for Paws Operations Director, Allison Gillespie.
everybody. So we've shown you why or what we'd like to do with Clinic in a Can, but now we need to tell you why increasing spay-neuter capacity around the nation is bigger than us. So we split animal rescues, shelters, and humane societies in South Carolina into 3 groups. There were large organizations with annual revenue over $1 million, small organizations with annual revenue under $100,000, and medium organizations like us that fell somewhere in between. So the large organizations only make up 13% of the total. These guys almost all have fancy, full-functioning, well-staffed spay-neuter clinics. The problem is with their high intake capacity and their cost structure, they're not able to provide low-cost spay-neuters widely to meet the need. So 44% of the small organizations, you can't afford a clinic. These guys are boots on the ground and dependent on other people to function. This is where medium groups can step up. They're 43% of us, and we can't afford a fancy clinic, but we could afford a functioning low-cost option. This new approach of function over fancy could enable organizations like us to increase low-cost spay-neuter capacity for 87% of shelters, rescues, and humane societies nationwide. Now, why is capacity important? Well, we all know the numbers, and using cats as an example, there's 76 million companion cats out there. About 11 million of these reside in underserved areas with little or no access to vet care. Add community cats or feral cats onto these, only about 2% of the 30 to 40 million are spayed and neutered, and that adds up to over 40 million cats in need of spaying and neutering. We've talked to a lot of small and medium groups in our area, and they've let us know that the lack of spay-neuter options for us is really one of the things that bottlenecks their organization's growth. So we've designed our clinic. It's 2 40-foot units end to end. But the cool thing about Clinic in a Can is you can design it for any specific need you might have, and it can ship anywhere in the United States or the world. They've had 22 years of experience building affordable, durable, and functional clinics on a need-by-need basis. This is the prep and surgery room we've designed. You can see that we've got 2 surgical tables to maximize throughput and a wet table to handle any dental or other medical needs we may encounter. Our proposed clinic will cost $288,786.42. We need your help to change the rules on spay-neuter clinic design and address overpopulation by empowering groups like us to put affordable spay-neuter options in place. We just need you and your can-do attitude.
Great. Well, an amazing way to end that one. The can-do attitude. Good. Innovative. And actually really very exciting. Let's see what questions the judges might have for you today. Mary, why don't you get us started?
Thank you, Allison. Welcome, Tom. My question for both of you has to do with COVID-19 and the impact of the pandemic on the Spay Neuter in a Can project. You know, a lot of new guidelines and recommendations are being put forward on how to keep the community and the pets and people safe while the spay neuter services and wellness services are being offered. How does that relate to Spay Neuter in a Can for you guys?
COVID has really impacted us like other shelters in that our reserves have been depleted a little. In terms of the design and impact on COVID, it's actually a pretty cool operation. This clinic that we've designed will actually allow for better social distancing, and it's designed because it's not going to be a public clinic. It's going to be just for our shelter and for other rescues. We actually stage people on a porch. We have a 70-foot covered porch, and people can sit in rocking chairs 6 feet apart. The intake, and we do the surgery. We deliver them back to the exit door. And so from a control standpoint, we actually have more control over this facility than you'd have if you had a regular, like a vet office.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Krista with the ASPCA. Thanks for that pitch. It was fun. It was fun to watch. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about how or if you're planning to target your spay neuter services. I heard you reference shelter and rescues, but I wonder if you're going to be providing services for other subsets of the population.
Actually, there's 3 groups we really address. As Allison talked about, there's medium rescues and small rescues. A number of medium rescues in our state don't have a spay neuter clinic and are dependent upon those services. They don't have them available. It really limits what they can do. We have a number of very small organizations, small rescues, that cannot afford a clinic. We have individuals and shelters in those groups have approached us and said, if you had the capacity, we would come and we could fill up whatever we needed. The third group we really deal with is like homeowner associations, where people in the community get upset with feral cats, and they'll come to us, and we actually help them with their spay-neuter operations. And also we help them manage the cat colony, provide them a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen, and teach them where what they need to do to keep them from interfering with their neighbors. So it's basically medium shelters, small shelters, and individual groups that need our help. The reality is that we only have so much capacity, and we're limiting what we can do for them. That's why we really want to do something to increase our capacity. Every time we see cats euthanized in a shelter, cats starving in a community, it hurts us. And we really feel that we need to be responsible and compassionate, two of our values, and do something now. If not us, who? And if not now, when? I mean, I know that answers your question, but three groups is what we would address.
Thanks, Tom. It's Matt Zarkowski out in Los Angeles with the Mary Jo and Hank Greenberg Animal Welfare Foundation. I think you're doing great. This is a great idea. We have the largest port in the world, and it's got full of these containers that I hope we can reuse for good purposes.
Yeah.
I want to follow up on Krista's question, wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how many more animals you're going to be able to serve and help, and how are you going to, and what kind of medical team are you going to be able to assemble to do that?
So we actually rent a surgical suite currently. So we have a vet tech, and we have 2 retired emergency room nurses who handle recovery for us. So we've got our team in place. It's really just, we need a location. We could increase by 5, depending on however many days we could do a week. We can handle, at minimum 24 a day right now, but we're renting a space and we're transporting there and transporting back. So I really think we can improve that going forward too.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Well, let's thank you guys so much. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Tom, so much. And,
can we say one thing?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. I guess on behalf of not just the other finalists, but all the contestants who have entered applications in this Innovation Showdown, we'd like to thank you individually and your organizations for what you've done. The real winners are the animals. And I think the winners have already been picked in that you've challenged and encouraged numerous shelters around the country to think out of the box, to make tomorrow different than yesterday. We thank you for that and ask you just keep it up. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you. I'm sure everyone here thanks you. And I love it. Out of the box, into the can, out of the can, over to the West Coast. Okay, we're going to go to the West Coast now for our next Showdown contender. Let's see what innovative idea Kitizen Science is here to present.
Every day, veterinary teams are hard at work sterilizing free-roaming cats. These efforts may be called trap, neuter, return, community cat programs, or return to field. These approaches are increasingly popular, but are they working? Published research shows that spaying and neutering cats is associated with reduced intake and euthanasia in shelters, improved cat health, and less nuisance behavior. By these animal welfare metrics, spay-neuter has been a success. However, hesitant municipalities and those who lobby against spay-neuter programs are concerned with a different metric, reducing the number of free-roaming cats on the landscape. There is a lack of rigorous, controlled, long-term research addressing whether and by how much spay-neuter programs can reduce free-roaming cat population sizes. Focused on caring for the seemingly endless animals in need, spay-neuter organizations lack the resources and expertise to conduct research. There is so much that we still don't know, such as what proportion of cats in an area need to be sterilized to see a population reduction, or how long it takes to see that decrease. This is where Kitizen Science comes in. We're a new citizen science program currently in development. Our aim is to partner with spay-neuter groups to study the work that they're already doing and monitor how effective it is at reducing free-roaming cat populations. Counting the number of cats in a colony is one thing, but what about the cats across an entire neighborhood? Thankfully, there are scientific tools for answering this question. Kitizen Science has adapted wildlife research methods to conduct impact assessments of spay-neuter programs. Our technical backbone is the Wildbook Kitizen Science platform, cutting-edge cloud software used to monitor species around the world. We've been working with them to customize it for use in cats. Combining Wildbook and crowdsourcing, we can analyze data using mark recapture population modeling, the gold standard for scientifically monitoring animal populations. We all know about the power of volunteers in saving lives in shelters and fostering. At Kitizen Science, we also believe that volunteers can play a vital role in life-saving research. We're putting this belief to the test by conducting validation studies to ensure that our volunteers can correctly collect and process data. Kitizen Science has 2 volunteer roles. Our catwalk team uses our smartphone app to photograph free-roaming cats in locations with a monitoring project. These volunteers gather data in both the spay-neuter program's target area and a control area, so we can compare cat population size changes between the two. Our cat and mouse team processes these photo submissions online. These are structured as short microtasks, and volunteers work at their own pace. This is perfect for people with caretaking obligations, mobility limitations, or busy schedules that prevent people from committing to traditional animal rescue work. By studying many cat spay-neuter programs and learning what works best, we all benefit. Kitizen Science has the potential to change the policy conversation around cat management and improve the efficacy of everyone's spay-neuter program. Please help us take our next steps forward by funding our first monitoring projects. Thank you for watching.
Wow, that was pretty amazing. Well, let's welcome Dr. Jennifer Buchanan and Sabrina Alluro to tell us more about their scientific approach to monitoring cat populations.
All of us in shelter medicine need to use evidence-based research to guide our practices. Kitizen Science is here today because we're asking you, the larger animal welfare community, to work with us, to answer questions that are going to help us all improve our life-saving practices. Community cats is a controversial topic, so we want our methods and our data to be the highest possible quality. So here is a update on the progress of the 3 validation studies we have going on right now.
Our first validation study tested whether volunteers can match cats from smartphone photos. Despite many images being challenging, volunteers did better than expected. Our second validation study, running now, is a trial of our online workflow. In step 1, volunteers label a cat's visible features. In step 2, our algorithm suggests potential matches. Volunteers decide if one is correct or if the cat is new to our database. Our artificial intelligence tool zooms in on cats and highlights them, so volunteers don't spend time hunting around for cats and images. Our third validation study puts it all together to compare a time-intensive cat census against our methods. Using our app, field volunteers will walk through an area and photograph cats. These submissions will be organized by our online volunteers and then analyzed to create a population estimate. Comparing that estimate with a census tells us how accurate our methods are and if any adjustments need to be made. Thank you, investors, for this opportunity to share our important work as cat nerds.
All right. Thanks so much, Sabrina and Dr. Buchanan. Now, I've got a question, but I'd like to let others ask first. Lindsay, you want to get us started here?
Sure. Thank you. Hi, Sabrina and Dr. Buchanan. Thank you so much. First off, I love the use of technology and the critical data collection. Definitely something that we do need. Some great work like this is already currently being done with the DC cat count. And I'm wondering if you've had a chance to connect with that team to identify any sort of key learnings they've had and potential adaptations you might make as a result of the work already being done.
Yes, the DC Cat Count is a wonderful project, and I know that many of you are funders of that. The DC Cat Count is looking at different research questions than I am, but using similar methods. So I have had interactions with Dr. John Boone, who's heading that up. He's actually one of the people that inspired me to go into data collection and monitoring programs, because that's so needed, and there are not enough people doing that kind of important work. The way that I compare the DC Cat Count to what we are doing is that John Boone and his team have created the absolute Rolls Royce of cat population monitoring systems, and it's a real scientific achievement. The downside is that it costs $500,000 a year, and I don't know many groups that can afford $500,000 a year for a monitoring program. What we're doing, on the other hand, is creating the Toyota Corolla of cat monitoring projects. We're looking for something that can be used by more people and more adopted on a more widespread scale.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, this is Angie from Best Friends Animal Society.
Similar to what Mary asked earlier, we're wondering if COVID-19 has caused you to rethink any of your plans, and if so, could you explain what that is and why?
Yes, COVID-19 fortunately has not affected our plans as much as it has with a lot of other animal rescues and spay-neuter clinics. Our plan is to go forward with our third validation study this summer. Thankfully, we don't need people to get together in large groups or to come within 6 feet of other people to use our app and walk survey routes. And then half of our program is online, so people can do that from home without a need to physically interact with others.
So we did do some thinking about this when COVID happened, and we did a good review of our practices and actually came to the conclusion that this might actually help improve monitoring because kids happen to be very good at the wildlife book, like the Wild Book program. So when you're trapped home with your kids, very much like I am, like this is something you could do that is beneficial to the larger animal welfare community. Like you can save lives with your kids at home.
Really cool. Thank you, Sabrina and Dr. Buchanan.
And let me finish up here, unless anyone has other questions. I want to speak as the decidedly unscientific of cat nerds in the room. I mean, honestly, you know, you gotta talk to me a little bit like I'm a third grader in this one. But I just wonder how you take something like Wild Book and you bring it into a world that is so vastly different, meaning the urban landscape. You know, I mean, you're dealing with animals whose primary job is to stay hidden from us, and there's plenty of places for them to do it. I mean, I live here in LA, and even the estimates into how many feral cats we have here are just so wildly different, up to 2 million sometimes and down to 200,000 in other weird studies. But have you guys worked with Wild Book closely to get that model switched from a wide open habitat to a more urban model?
Yes, so Wild Book are our technological partners, and one of the benefits we have is we get to learn from years of research experience from people that are using these same methods to monitor animals like leopards or whale sharks and other animals. So in any environment, even an African savanna that might seem wide open, there are animals that aren't well visible. So there's always the issue of what in science terms we would call a detection probability, how well you can detect cats that are out there. Fortunately, with the methods that we're using, even though a good segment of the cat population in any area will be hiding or sleeping at any given time, we use mathematical models that take that into account. And by using individual identification with photos, every single area that we're monitoring will have a different detection probability. So if you're in an area where cats are harder to see, that will be taken into account. So that's one of the benefits to using photographic mark recapture, is because unlike simply doing a cat index survey where you're walking around and counting cats, our stats will be able to take into account the different levels of difficulty in sighting cats and incorporate that into the model. I hope that's a simple enough explanation.
Something that's nifty about the app that we're doing is that it is smart enough to focus in on the cat in the picture. So you're not going to have to do search like those games where you search the whole picture to find the cat. The app is going to help you focus in on that cat.
And one quick follow-up is how far into the work with Wild Book are you? It's said in the presentation that you are working with them to adapt this, but how far along are you guys in that? I mean, I know that you're trying to raise the money for at this point, but in terms of that whole picture with Wild Book, do you feel like you're there with them? How far along are you?
We're well underway. We finished our first validation study. We're currently working on our second validation study. And as long as COVID continues to trend downwards, we're going to be doing data collection for our third validation study this summer. Our aim is to have everything collected and analyzed from our pilot work by the end of this year or into the coming winter. And then at that point, we'll be able to make any needed adjustments. And our goal is to be able to start monitoring projects with other organizations in May, June, and July of 2021.
Suzanne, I think you had a question as well.
do. I actually have a question. What's the ask? What amount do you all need from the investors to make this happen and bring this idea to fruition?
So we have a large ask. The amount that we would love to receive is $400,000. And what that would cover is for us to monitor 6 locations for a period of 7 years. Dr. John Boone and Dr. Margaret Slater have produced a document giving advice about cat monitoring, and they advise to do monitoring projects for at least 5 years. We would like to do 7 years because we don't really know. Does it take 5 years? Does it take 4 years? Does it take 6 years before we're going to see a decline in cat populations? Our alternative ask is $330,000, which would cover 5 locations for 6 years.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Our third and final pitch is from our wild card contestant, Greenville Animal Care. Now, we got a feeling that their idea will make a positive impression with our audience today. Let's see the idea that earned them the wild card spot.
So, you're in the market for a new best friend. But before you decide, you want to learn more about her. Will she be a good fit for your family? Shelter workers are busy and the info cards with each dog are usually educated guesses at best. So how can you know if this one is a chewer or a little vocal? Is she good with cats? How about kids? Does she chase cars? Or is she licensed to drive them? Is she a retired helicopter pilot? A child TV star? Royalty? A good girl? A gooder girl? The goodest of girls? All of this info can guide potential puppy parents to the right decision and help this girl and other overlooked or less desirable animals get adopted. But how can we make sure the info is both readily available and up to date? Introducing Pet Impressions, a brand new app-based user experience that serves dog lovers, dog adopters, and of course, the dogs themselves. Creating a profile is easy. If you're a foster parent or shelter worker, you'll add a dog's info. Then each time you play with, walk, spend a day with, or groom one of our furry friends, you can rate your experience and add any info that you think might help a potential family make a forever decision. If you're the one looking for the perfect companion, then Pet Impressions will let you build your own profile with likes and dislikes. That way, it can match you with a pet that fits, well, you. Each dog has a unique scannable QR code, with their latest up-to-date info available to anyone from anywhere via the app. So the next time you see this girl at the shelter, there will be no doubts about how she got there, where she's from, or most importantly, where she belongs.
Let's welcome our third finalist to the Zoom screen, Shelley Simmons, Greenville Animal Care's Division Manager, to tell us more about the Pet Impressions app.
A great first impression is the #1 ingredient in an award-winning adoption recipe. And an animal's personality traits are like the secret sauce behind every first impression. 15 people or more can interact with an adoptable pet every day at our shelter, yet very little of what they learn through those interactions ends up on a public-facing pet profile. Information sharing can only happen when there's enough people and a convenient way to share it. And many shelter softwares are not optimized for mobile efficiency, and you need special permissions and trainings to use it. The people who interact the most with our animals often don't have those permissions or training. So much of what our foster parents, kennel staff, and volunteers learn are missing from a pet's profile because they rely on someone else to input it. And really just finding that person can be tough. And the data entry quickly falls to the bottom of a busy employee's to-do list. So right now, we're building a new model of community animal sheltering. But if our community cannot effectively share what they know, we have a big communication problem to solve. And that's what Pet Impressions is all about. It streamlines the information gathering efforts. As you can see from the graph, this can increase marketable input by 300% at our shelter. Adopters get an accurate and up-to-date portrayal of our pets, and this results in better first impressions and more successful adoptions. So here's how it works. First and foremost, it's simple to use. There's no download requirements. You just click a URL, profiles are created quickly. It uses a QR code to find an animal, or you can browse or search by a pet's name. And it can even save the pets that you frequently work with right on your dashboard. Then it asks users simple multiple choice questions based on common interactions that we have with our pets. The app then turns the answers into personality traits that are easy for adopters to understand. So instead of relying on a few people in the organization to be everyone's voice, Pet Impression gives everyone a voice in a simple yet powerful way. And I think what's most exciting for me is that it builds a more engaged team of lifesavers. that will create more accurate and engaging pet profiles and will drive adopters to the animals that they're actually most compatible with. And what that means is that older orange tabby in cage 42 with the awesome personality won't be overlooked again. The creative technology team at EP & Co. can bring pet impressions to life in just 1 year. Phase 1 can be launched within 6 months. Greenville County Animal Care is investing as well with $50,000 that we've earmarked for marketing. And we plan to give the most struggling shelters a free license to try out pet impressions. So the amount that we're asking you to invest today in our innovative idea is $220,000. Pet impressions can really engage an entire community of lifesavers, and we think it's a perfect communication tool for a new era of community animal sheltering.
Okay, thanks so much, Shelley. Amy, this sounds like an idea you'd want to learn more about. Do you have any questions for Shelley to start us off?
Thanks, Jackson. I do have questions for Shelley. I love the technology approach here and the idea of crowdsourcing more information about pets. That said, my experience with platforms like this is that quality control on the data is really important. So how do you plan to get an adequate amount of accurate information into your app to give users looking for a new dog a really great experience?
Good question. And, I think to answer that question, maybe I'd like to start by introducing Kristen Clowder, and she's an EP & Co. Creative Technology Department lead. She and her team are the creative force behind the app design and the tech guru. And I think that she can best answer that question or at least start the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. So the Pet Impressions app has been architected in order to be able to have both a front-facing platform for both our volunteers and adopters, but also an administrative portion that is built into the first phase of our deploy schedule. And that allows the shelter workers such as Shelley and her staff to be able to monitor the information coming in. So it's not going to be an immediate, as a volunteer or kennel worker puts in their multiple choice questions, it'll automatically update the profile. We're going to build an algorithm into the app to take into account the amount of data that we're collecting and the frequency of it so that we can actually mathematically and scientifically put in the correct traits for these animals. So it's not a skewed view. And then our administrative team would have the tools within a back-end system to be able to monitor everything coming in and edit accordingly as needed.
Got it. Thanks. Makes sense.
Jerlene, you said you had a question?
I do, actually. Shelley, Kristen, thank you for that information. I'm Geraldine Bryant with the David Sherrill Duffield Foundation. I believe that, if I heard this correctly, that your ask is $220,000. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Is that the total amount that you're going to need to develop this app?
Yes, it will be.
Okay. Great. How long do you anticipate it taking to develop the app and get it to market?
We've broken it out into 2 phases to make it attainable. The first phase, as Shelley mentioned, would be 6-month build, and that's the larger chunk. That's the platform of it that allows us to have multiple shelters on it at the same time and to build the data collection tool, which is the most important part of this app. That would be done in December of 2020. We would then want at least 3 months to start to collect data within both the Greenville Animal Care Center, as well as potentially using up to 3 other shelters that are within our no-kill environment that we've currently become a part of, to be able to start to collect the data, understand the algorithm, and perfect it. Then we would start phase 2. And phase 2 would then bring in the adopting matching system to allow all the data that we're collecting from our shelter workers and our volunteers to be able to start matching towards potential adopters so that we're finding a much better connection between the two. That's only a 3-month build. So we're hoping that the entire build will be done by June of 2021. And then we could start to roll it out to more shelters, both in South Carolina and then hopefully in the next few years nationally.
Thank you for that information. I don't have any other questions, although I do want to say that you picked an adorable model for your video, and she really does look like a gooder girl. And so thank you for that.
Okay, JJ?
Hi, Shelley. JJ Rawlinson here of the Annenberg Foundation and Wallace Annenberg Pet Space. Jerlene, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to fight you for that dog because she is adorable, and I will be adopting her when this Innovation Showdown is over. She's my dream dog. But in all seriousness, again, congrats on becoming an Innovation Showdown finalist. My real question is a two-part question regarding any research and due diligence that you may have done in the app development stage. First, I'm curious about your process for determining the need for an app like this with shelters. And second, have you spoken to other organizations that have developed similar animal welfare related apps about their experiences and applied any of the lessons that they have learned to your Pet Impressions app?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for the first question, I think the COVID response and years of experience have really given me some amazing opportunities to network and create strong relationships with other progressive leaders in our industry. And, we know that technology is the future of life-saving. And so many of my colleagues are very interested in trying the app. We'll be reaching out to them for the test study. As far as the second question, could you just repeat that real quick?
Sure. My first question was, I'm curious about your process for determining the need for an app like this with shelters. How have you sort of figured out who needs it and what the need is?
Oh, well, yeah. We think that a lot of shelters are going to be very interested in this, and there is a need because, shelters are always understaffed, staff are always overworked, and as we go kind of move forward in this new world of animal sheltering, we're relying more on information from our fosters, and especially with so many of them out into foster homes. So I think that in that regard, just the fact that so many of our shelters are moving towards that model of a foster-centric type of animal sheltering. The need to be able for fosters to communicate effectively and not rely on shelter staff is critical. And from the conversations that I have, we have a couple of different connections with No Kill South Carolina and a few other community coalitions, and we have expressed to them that concern and that challenge that we have, and they share that concern.
So I think I'm going to apologize for interrupting JJ, but I think I'm going to take JJ's lead. And actually, I think I have a two-part question too, but I'll start with just part one. And it's really a follow-up, I think, on JJ's question, which is, last year's winner, Dallas Animal Services, had a very similar feature where you would take a picture of the QR code and it would pull up information on the animals. And these days, what we have is so many different systems out there, and a lot of them not talking to one another. So have you spoken specifically to last year's Innovation Showdown winner? And is this developing a build on to that or something differently?
So we did look at the Dallas 90 system, and, I think the main goal in difference of Pet Impressions is to crowdsource the data collection aspect so that we can use that data in many different ways. And of course, the most important being the marketability of future pets. So we're not trying to replace other software it would be great to build on. And I think the fact that, Dallas 90 built that and we're coming forward with this innovative idea really shows that there's an issue with communication between, shelter staff and volunteers and fosters and everything that we know about animals and the people who need to hear about it. And so it is different, but I think it is very complementary.
And I'll add on to Shelley as well about your integration question. So my team has reached out to some pet data management software, specifically PetPoint, about integrating with their system. And they have an open API. And what that means is that, we looked at them specifically because Greenville Animal Care uses them. And that is how they produce their profiles right now. That cannot be shared amongst all of their staff and their volunteers. So we've already done the research that we can have an open API integration with that system to be able to pull all intake data into our app to auto-create the existing profiles, meaning the shelter staff that's existing right now doesn't have to change their processes at all. But what it does is allow us to share data in between that and then put that out for the volunteers to just add to on top of. We've also looked down in the future for future phases of this to integrate with other larger management systems and potential online profile systems that adopters are already using, so that we're sharing our data across many existing platforms and not trying to replace them.
I think it's important to note that, when we submitted our idea, our main priority was really to improve the adopter experience when they visit and drive people to our overlooked pets. And that's still true today, but, with the advent of COVID-19 and its impact on how we do business, driving adopters to pet impressions prior to their scheduled visit will be hugely reliant on marketing efforts. And, we already have a marketing strategy that works to get adopters in our door, and we have a great engagement reach in social media, which will be a huge help to pull in the younger demographics of adopters, those who seek out technology solutions versus in-person ones. It's also why we're committing to investing $50,000 into marketing.
Let me ask one question. I know that we're kind of piling on the questions here, but that was a great entry point to that, Shelley. Is there the adaptability of this software to, you're talking about creating these impressions for animals that are in the shelter. What if they were in foster? Does that work as well? Do they have to be on the premises in order for it to be an effective thing?
No, they don't have to be on site. And in fact, I think that the technology is even more relevant now that so many of them aren't on site, because right now I can speak specifically to my shelter, but I know that other shelters are experiencing the same thing. We have a lot of animals. 75% of our animals are in foster care right now, and we hope to maintain at least 50% of animals in foster care. So all of those foster homes are driving information to just a couple of people because they don't access the shelter data software that we use. They don't have the permissions. They don't know how to use it. So this app is great for them, great for volunteers, so that they can drive that information themselves, and they can really have even more of an investment into that animal. So I think that probably is something that we didn't expect, but really now has just come to the forefront.
Can I jump in, Jackson, with a question?
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you. I'm going to go back to where we first started, when we started the show, a question about COVID-19. And I think what we're all experiencing is economic uncertainty in our either our municipal sheltering systems or with our nonprofits. I'm wondering, is there going to be an opportunity, or is there a business plan in place to monetize the app, sell advertising, be a resource in other ways, to perhaps raise money for your shelter or other shelters in your area?
Yes. Yeah. The apps, hopefully as the app's popularity grows, we do anticipate having sponsorship opportunities. As far as revenue, so the plan for Pet Impressions is that, well, actually, I think maybe I'll let Kristen explain that piece of it about how we're going to get that information, or how we will pay for it.
Sure. So we have actually come up with a tiered system. So the idea would be, as Shelley mentioned earlier, that the Greenville Animal Care is willing to provide some free licenses to the software initially to some of the more shelters that need the help. But this would need to be a license-based model in order to continue the growth of this. My team has a lot of experience working within that. So we came up with a tiered system to where it would range between $500 to $1,500 a year to buy into it, which is very low cost and attainable, we believe. That would cover, the tiered system would allow shelters who don't have as much funds to be able to still use the same platform based on the amount of users, the amount of animals that they have at their shelter would depend on what tier they're in. And if we can, our maintenance costs per year are looking to be about $20,000. So if we're looking down into the future, we would want to start with our no-kill environment in South Carolina. Get up to maybe 50%, which is about only 20 shelters to get involved in that. That would cover our costs for the year. Then, as we're looking both regionally and nationally, we're looking at only about a 10 to 20% adoption rate of the app in order to be able to not only cover our maintenance costs, but to also increase and make revenue between $300,000 if we did it regionally, up to almost $1 million nationally if we only had 10 to 20% adoption rate amongst all the shelters in the country. That would mean that we're not only being able to maintain the existing functions of the app, but we're able to lower the costs for all of the shelters who are on it from a yearly perspective, but we're now able to add more functionality to this platform so it stays relevant, it stays up to date with the technological standards that are happening and changing constantly, and we are offering more of the features that our shelters are in need, and we're able to be nimble enough to be able to help more animals and more adopters as things change and as the world changes. Because as we saw, COVID was not something that any of us expected, and we have to be able to shift our business models to be able to accommodate. So we want to be able to have that happen. So we have come up with a business plan to be able to make this both affordable and very attainable for shelters of all different levels and sizes.
Great. Okay, thank you so much for answering. And great, a whole bunch of questions on that one.
I had one last question. So what I love the idea of crowdsourcing animal data, and I've worked a lot with rescues who believe that, and shelters who believe that it's really important to have, all of these people getting that data about that animal into the system so people really understand who that animal is when they're looking to adopt. So I love that. But I guess my question is, why do they need this platform to do that? Because I know there are some shelters who are having volunteers and fosters enter data directly into the shelter management systems, and then they can publish that information or that story about the animals online. So what is it that differentiates this that would induce a shelter to spend the extra money to use this platform over what they could do at no cost?
That's true, that there are shelters out there who have, who are getting their volunteers or staff to input data, and they have access to it only if they're given permissions. And also they have to know how to use it, right? They have to know how to enter that information. And so that can be a challenge right there. And, especially for larger shelters like ours, where we can have several hundred animals out in foster care, and those fosters, it's difficult for us to gather all that information from fosters and put it into the system quickly. And, I think that is one component of it. And then the other difference is I think that Pet Impressions matches people and pets primarily using their personality and behavior traits. So, rather than just getting, I'm just going to be honest with you. When I go out and I search sites now, it's a little different right now because we have more time to invest with fewer animals in the shelter right now because of COVID. And that will be wonderful if it continues. But we do also want to be aware of the fact that, the information that's being shown on those sites, on those pet adoption search sites, are very limited. It's usually age, gender, sex, size of the animal, number of kids in the household. And those are key components of the adoption match, but it's really not the secret ingredient to a great match. It's definitely not the component that's going to engage an adopter enough to stop and visit. And also keeping that up to date. So they might get information in there, and then the animal might be in the shelter for 3 weeks. And there's lots of things that are being learned during that time, or even in a foster home, and that information can be continually updated.
In our research of other platforms, the mobile access isn't there. And as we know, we're so on the go, mobile friendly consumers anymore. And that's what we want to do, is make that interface really easy to use, make it attractive, and make it accessible. And I think that's what's missing in the marketplace right now that we're trying to fill the gap from.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you guys so much. And thank you for answering those questions so completely. Wow. These are some fantastic ideas. That was our third and final idea for the 2020 Innovation Showdown. And as investors, we have some tough decisions to make in front of us to see who's going to win big today. But before we move on to our virtual deliberation, Suzanne's going to tell us about how you all tuning into us today live can win big as well.
That's right, Jackson. While all of us are deliberating, we want to know what everyone else watching live on Facebook would invest, just as if you were investors, just like the innovation investors. So in the comments, tell us about how much you would invest in each organization. And remember, you have up to $500,000, but you don't have to give it all away. They have to earn it. So we're going to choose 5 lucky viewers from those comments to receive a Petco Foundation and Bob's from Skechers prize pack. Woo! Petco Foundation is really so proud to just be the charitable partner of Bob's from Skechers. And I'm not sure if you know this, but when you purchase Bob's shoes, apparel, or pet accessories, a portion of your purchase is donated to the Petco Foundation to help save pet lives.
One of our great sponsors is Skechers, Bob's for Dogs. They're really big supporters of adoption. And again, there she goes, and I've got mine on too.
We actually make a donation for every pair of Bobs that are sold to the Petco Foundation. So that's huge.
Talk about these great organizations teaming up in such a big way.
In June, we're launching our Be a Lifesaver campaign in partnership with Bob's from Skechers.
We're really excited about our partnership that we entered into with the Petco Foundation.
KC Pet Project's first-time fosters received a $200 Petco shopping spree. The other 2 volunteers received Skechers shoes.
The shoe company Skechers gifted shoes to all of the hardworking staff just as a little bonus.
We are honoring 2 fosters. Petco Foundation gave both of our award winners shoes from Bob's for Skechers.
I actually brought a friend with me, and he's really special, and he has something special for you. Please welcome Chris from Bob's from Skechers.
Obviously, Bob's for Dogs and Skechers and our donations we do, and our partnership with the Petco Foundation, saving shelter animals is really near and dear to our hearts. As a really small token of our appreciation for you guys, we're actually going to gift you all a pair of our Bob's for Dogs shoes today. So congratulations.
In the Humane Society of North Texas, perfect. Here's 100 pair of shoes for you.
You're all going to all of you guys.
This investment, as well as other grants we've gotten from the Petco Foundation, have just been transformational to our shelter and saved countless lives over several years.
We're excited to be able to donate 100 pairs of shoes so they have a little bit of comfort while they're taking care and saving the lives of animals. The Skechers company is filled with animal lovers throughout, so we're very excited to be able to do our part in helping animals.
Okay, everyone's back. I think we're back. That was for sure tough deliberations, but every judge had their voice heard, and we're ready to share our final totals.
I think it's time to get our contestants back on screen so we can let them know what their investments are.
All right, first, let's bring up Greenville Animal Care. All right. Guys, thank you again so much for your presentation and for your wonderful idea. And we have decided to invest $95,000 in your life-saving idea today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
up next, let's bring up Kitizen Science. Okay, the investors have decided to invest $175,000 in your great innovative idea for saving cats. Congratulations.
Congratulations, you guys.
Yay!
Okay, finally, let's welcome all four paws back to the screen. Welcome back, you guys. We have decided to invest $230,000 in cats. Congratulations, you guys. Congratulations.
Oh, yay! Congratulations!
That's fabulous.
All right. Well, listen, as we wrap up today, I want to take a moment to remind everyone that innovation doesn't end here. As investors, we're committed to the ideas that we fund, and we work with organizations every day to bring ideas to life. Now, starting in July, we're going to host monthly live chats with prior year investment recipients to talk about the ideas that they brought to the showdown and how they've saved lives since earning that investment.
You know, and for those of you who are wondering how the judges make these choices and what the application process is like, we also invite you to join us during HSUS's virtual Animal Care Expo for a special behind-the-scenes look at the Innovation Showdown.
Okay, well, that marks the end of our 2020 virtual Innovation Showdown. And we thank you so much to all of our investors, to all that submitted ideas, whether you are on this stage or not. Your innovation is appreciated and valued. And we ask all of you to continue that sense of innovation, because innovation reflects passion. Our passion for the animals is what's going to get us where we need to go. So until next year, and when we hope to see you all in person, take care. We'll see you then.
Good job, everyone. Congrats.